happens?
Uh, so
So you're already, by this time, you're like hot on the trail. You understand what's happening by then.
uh, I made this video in 2020, or I think maybe early 2021, but then I've already noticed how 5G technology deployment was going on everywhere, worldwide, like crazy. And I was among the ones who campaigned against this because I know how much this technology could be exploited for not for good means and how dangerous it is. And we were talking about the interaction.
Could you explain, because it's very confusing to a lot of people. Just, what is 5G? What is a man-made electromagnetic frequency, and how and why does it cause damage?
Okay, so 5G is not the first attempt of using man-made electromagnetic waves. It's just a very complicated elaboration on existing technologies like 4G and other, in fact, radio frequencies in general. 5G in particular has some very nasty capabilities that did not exist before. But basically, electromagnetic radiation is something that is created by man-made apparatus, either deliberately for means of communication or um, not deliberately as noise. You know, if you have an electric uh, electric locomotor, right? And it generates electromagnetic radiation. It's not intentional, but it does that anyway. Every power station does.
But there's also natural electromagnetic fields, right? Like the Earth and the Sun and that, right? So they're different.
Yes. So light, natural light from the sun is also electromagnetic radiation, but it is usually of the sort that we are, as biological creatures, well equipped to deal with it.
Yes.
And uh, sunlight, of course, is the energy source for all life forms on Earth. Um, and there are other sorts of electromagnetic radiation, like X-rays used for medical diagnosis purposes. This could be really dangerous. One could give you, people need to protect themselves and try to do as few X-rays as possible because this is very unhealthy. And there is the kind of electromagnetic radiation that's used for communication.
Right.
And people.
And what's different about the quality of that versus the sunlight?
Well, the interaction between electromagnetic waves and biological system is not straightforward, and it's not linear. Um, some electromagnetic radiation penetrates through the body. Sunlight doesn't do that. And when it does penetrate, it interacts with tissues. And this interaction is problematic. And uh, there is one simple rule. The higher the wavelength, the less it penetrates your body. So visible light is considered a very, very high frequency radiation, and it doesn't penetrate your body. And most communication uses electromagnetic waves of much smaller frequencies. We also divide them to ionizing and non-ionizing. This is a rough differentiation. Um, for example, X-ray or gamma radiation would be ionizing, and communication signals would be non-ionizing.
Right. That's not a strict delineation.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And ionizing and non-ionizing does not tell all the story, of course, because there is a lot of damage that could be um, created even by non-ionizing electromagnetic radiation. Everybody knows that if you have a cellular telephone, you'd better not keep it very close to your body. Better not play with it too much because it's unhealthy. But 5G is really a game changer in that respect because, yes.
Yeah, what makes it a game changer? Can you spell that out?
Two things. It is first and foremost mostly not intended for use by people. So whereas 4G is supposed to make our cellular telephones, the one that you and I have, makes them work, able to send and receive communication. It turns out that 5G is mostly not about communicating between people. Only a small part of it's like a triangle, and one of these vertices is the extension of the existing 4G cellular telephony communication, but the other two vertices are something called the Internet of Things, which is not connecting people, it's connecting machines and connecting apparatus. And the other vertex is something that's called ultra reliable low latency communication. It's supposed to allow communication with robots. And this is not human. This is something out of this world almost. And people don't understand this. They don't. When people hear 5G, they usually think, it's an extension of 4G. It will make our cellular phones faster. But no, this is hardly the story. And this is one aspect of it. There are others.
So it's basically using, instead of these long wavelengths, which are harmless and actually probably nourishing, it's using very short millimeter wavelengths, which are essentially toxic and meant to be communication between things, not between people. And
no, the 4G and 3G were already using short wavelength. 5G uses the same spectra of 3G and 4G. It doesn't get rid of it. In fact, 5G it augments anything 4G in it. It just takes the spectrum of frequencies used and extends it by a lot. But 5G will happily work with the same frequencies used for 4G. The difference is that it has a technology called active phased array antenna, whereas 3G and later 4G were emitting blobs of some sort of directional beam, but not very well pinpointed. 5G changes this in another respect, and this respect is that it is capable to generate very narrow beams, almost like like a laser weapon. It's not just to have a general idea. But there is another thing about 5G, which is that for the first time, there's a nice person called Elon Musk, and Elon Musk has started one of his companies is called SpaceX, and it spinned off another company called Starlink. So Elon Musk got an authorization from the FDA to launch 42 100,000 satellites to low Earth orbit, and each of these satellites is equipped with 4 5G transmitters. And then they are using frequencies higher than what we've been accustomed to in 4G. 4G, for example, uses like around 2.45 gigahertz. 2.45, incidentally, is the same frequency that is used in your microwave oven in your kitchen and in your home Wi-Fi router. So all these frequencies were roughly in the same ballpark, 2 point something, 1 point something gigahertz. And 5G continues to use those, but it adds the millimeter waves that you mentioned earlier. Millimeter waves are starting from about 20 something gigahertz. In fact, 30 gigahertz is 10 millimeters, and 300 gigahertz is exactly 1 millimeter. So anything between anything like 20 megahertz and above is 20 gigahertz and above is called millimeter waves. Although it is not 1 it's 10 millimeters is also called millimeter waves.
Yeah. Got it. So they're launching all these satellites and essentially bathing the world with all these millimeter or 5G frequencies.
It is so unbelievable. You know, the astronomers all over the world started complaining that the satellites are blocking the stars. They cannot watch the stars anymore because there is a blanket enveloping Earth of satellites.
Yeah.
And now these satellites are very sophisticated. They are synchronized with each other by laser beams, and there is no line of sight between all of them, but a few hundreds of them can be well coordinated to work together. And by using hundreds of satellites simultaneously to create what is known as cooperative multi-point transmission, you can have extremely razor sharp wave. It's called wave. What is the exact term? I forget. It is beam forming. So you have beams that can be made very, very precise. And when you have beams that are so precise, of course, you can use them for the better, you know, to just send a packet of information to a specific telephone, or you can use them for different purposes that are not so friendly.
Yeah. So what were you seeing in the last number of years that you mentioned to me that you could see that there was going